wanted to have a conversation with you about something I learned from both somebody I knew a long time ago and from a documentary called The Fog of War about McNamara, who was the Secretary of Defense during some pretty major conflicts in America. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because, many years ago, probably like 2004 time frame, I think, I was still pretty, I would say, my ideologies were that there's never a good reason to go to war. I still basically have that as a core theology, I guess you could say, only because I feel like a lot of the things that we've been involved in was a result of falsified data and sending our men and women into harm's way within the U.S. military for reasons that, many knew to be false. And so I had a hard time articulating externally that, that I separate the conflict from the soldier. And I was, talking about this one time in an open conversation with a few drinks with some, coworkers, many of whom were veterans. And I could tell that I had crossed a line in the way I was articulating my beliefs with some of them, and they got a little frustrated with me. And so a man that, had a vet who was, I hadn't quite befriended yet, but I knew, he kind of set me aside, and for, about a good hour, he had just a really great one-to-one conversation with me where he talked about what it was like serving in Somalia. To be that young and be sent to that country. And he basically told me that when they arrived, that the civilians hated them. The soldiers obviously hated them. Nobody wanted them there. Yet they were tearing down their entire infrastructure. They were literally tearing down all the phone lines just to recycle the copper to eat. So the situation was so unstable. The results of who and how and why, I don't personally even know, to be honest with you. I'm just relating to the experience of the individual soldier. And he talked about how we came there to do the right thing. He wanted to do the right thing and, felt like he was there to do the right thing and still feels that way, I think. And I don't disagree with that. I just, but what he told me is that, guys, I don't know what the conflict was about, honestly. This is just more about the individual. But he told me that oftentimes that the civilians and that they were there to save and protect would oftentimes bear arms and shoot them at them, or they would throw rocks at them and they would be in plain clothes. And that the military often blended in as civilians by wearing plain clothes and then also coming out with their weapons. And so you're in a tricky situation where you're absolutely not supposed to harm any civilians, yet your adversary is blending in as civilians, is doing all the things civilians would do, plus the civilians are hostile towards you. It occurred to me what a total, talk about negative energy, talk about like how would your mind process that, and how difficult would it be to reintegrate after you'd been through something like that into a normal life. It was a gift that you told me that story if that person ever sees this. And I hope that others will understand it too. That in the fog of war, there's so many things that are happening. They have to happen quickly. People have to make quick decisions, and they don't always know immediately if what they're about to do is going to be the right thing. It's, like they say, that old term, it's 4D chess, using, humans as chess pieces on some level, because people, I think, become disconnected from the individual experience of who they're sending into a conflict. And that conversation that he had with me stuck with me to this day. And it's one of the reasons why you'll find me, advocating on behalf of people, even though I didn't serve myself. That was such a powerful conversation, what he shared with me about not always understanding who the real enemy was, especially since a lot of people didn't even understand that they were there to help. Even regardless of whether or not you disagree with that, guys, it's that what was the individual experience of the soldier that was sent there? They follow orders, they go where they're supposed to, they see that it's an effed up situation, they do their best to fix it and correct it. And, constantly find themselves under fire with everybody's perspectives. Nobody wants them there. That's the thing that's really, I guess I'm understanding better, especially since I have an understanding of psychotronic warfare and the effects of that on the psyche and the subconscious, and the way it creates polarities in the human mind, the way it creates duality. When, the human brain is actually capable of far greater than duality thinking. We can operate on and we can broadcast the entire spectrum of color. And so when people try to keep us in a dynamic of black versus white versus black, chessboard, only so many pieces, it's a game where a piece falls off the board, it's effectively dead. When in all actuality, we don't have to exist that way. And so what I'm asking for, folks, is to maybe take on what I just told you in a greater sense and try to have, for those returning right now, who will return in the future, try to understand what some of these people have been through and take that into consideration when you're evaluating their day-to-day, and just help bridge their way into normalcy again. Because when you've been in the middle of an F situation and you're surrounded by nothing but the tragedy of it, and you see the death, and you just witness things that you wished you'd never seen or been around. All I can tell you guys is I'm never going to say that I've been through what you've been through, but I can empathize after seeing some of the things that I've seen in the last couple of years, especially. It shook me to the core, and I get it better now. And I'm going to try to do better to understand what others are going through psychologically right now relative to the larger battle that we're in. That we are in a fog to a degree, but we can get out. So anyways, just some thoughts for today. I appreciate you listening, and thank you.